About 150 kilometres east of Hanoi is without a doubt the jewel in the Vietnamese crown, HaLong Bay. It was early morning on a very dull day when we crossed the Red River Bridge, the start of our 3.5-hour journey to the UNESCO World Heritage Site. The 1,000-kilometre long Red River begins its journey in China's Yunnan province and flows southeast through northern Vietnam before entering the Gulf of Tonkin through its enormous 14,000 square kilometre delta. The river carries with it large quantities of silt, much of which makes the rich floodplains east of Hanoi the perfect place to grow crops including rice, wheat, beans, rapeseed and corn. Then, suddenly out of the gloom, we got a glimpse of those amazing casts that make up the wonders of HaLong Bay. Apart from tourism, the protected waters of the bay are a great place to grow oysters. We are crossing a causeway to one of the bay's inhabited islands, and here we can see one of the area's many long-line oyster farms. Along with China and Japan, HaLong Bay produces Akoya cultured pearls. The bay offers pearl oysters the necessary nutrients, water quality and shelter. This pristine ecosystem is the key to producing high-quality cultured pearls. Here in HaLong Town, shops selling pearls and pearl products have sprung up. These shops project their business towards the tourist market, and as we can see here, there is no shortage of tourists. A lot of the Akoya pearls shown here are similar in size and colour to those produced in China and Japan, although some on display were inferior Chinese freshwater pearls. Today, the Vietnamese pearl industry is producing high-quality pearl jewellery, and up to 70% of those pearls are being collected here in HaLong Bay. Our destination is the tourist boat dock area of Tuan Chau Island, and it certainly looks like this is the centre of the HaLong Bay tourist industry. The cruise boat that will be our accommodation for tonight is one of the Bhaya cruise line's most recent additions, the Bhaya Classic. Our cabin was one of 20 luxurious cabins on board, and was amazingly roomy for a cabin that included an ensuite. The outside balcony was certainly a nice place to watch the amazing scenery pass by. We had hardly a moment to store our cases before the boat was underway, and we were leaving the wharves of Tuan Chau Dock behind. The first order of business before lunch was a safety talk by the cruise director in the main dining room. You know the sort of thing. No running on a wet deck, and the Wi-Fi is free. We were told the boat's mandate was to provide us with a cruise that combined traditional Oriental style with contemporary luxury. They offered excellent service and a world-class cuisine. Scientists will tell you that the dramatic seascape is the result of tectonics and water erosion over millions of years. But I like the other explanation for how the nearly 2,000 islands dotting HaLong Bay, also known as Descending Dragon Bay, came to be. As the legend goes, all these islands are the handiwork of a family of dragons, sent by the gods to protect the fledgling country of Vietnam from invaders. Instead of fire, the dragons breathed jewels, pearls and jade, and created a sea of islands and islets that blocked the enemy's ships. Although Although sightseeing boats make up the bulk of traffic on HaLong Bay, they're not the only ones plying the waters. The area lies on a major shipping route, and it's not uncommon to see giant cargo ships making their way amongst the islands. The bay is a little over 1,500 square kilometres and includes somewhere between 1,900 and 2,000 islands or islets. Almost all are made of limestone and vary widely in shape and size. These amazing limestone casts have been formed by 20 million years of evolution and the local hot, wet, tropical climate. In 1962, the North Vietnam Ministry of Culture listed HaLong Bay as a national relic, and then, in 1994, UNESCO, the powerful United Nations Education, Scientific and Cultural Organization, listed the core zone, about 750 square kilometres of the bay, as a World Heritage Site. Over 900 of the islands have been given names, and many have acquired their names as a result of the interpretation of their unusual shapes. Some of these names include Elephant Island, Fighting Cock Island, Monkey Island, and Roof Island. And many different kinds of wildlife inhabit these islands, including birds, antelopes, monkeys, and lizards. In 1917, Emperor Kai Din sailed the waters of HaLong Bay in a beautiful wooden junk. 100 years later, we too have embarked on a voyage through time. We are embarking on an excursion from our cruise boat to one of the 4 floating villages on HaLong Bay. Only 2 of the islands on HaLong Bay have permanent habitation, but around 1,600 people live on the bay in floating villages. Bun Vien is one of the 4 floating villages that have nestled amongst the islands for centuries. If not for the fact that they float on water, they could be a neighbourhood anywhere in country Vietnam. On our arrival, we are greeted by villagers, and many were waiting to take us for a fascinating tour around their village in bamboo skiffs. The still waters of the lagoon look particularly inviting for our next adventure. It seemed that both men and women were at the helm of these delightful little crafts, and any concern we had that men would outrow the women was quickly laid to rest. Just as we set sail, out came the sun, and suddenly being exposed on the water got a lot hotter. It was then that the rowers produced typically Vietnamese conical-shaped hats for their very grateful passengers. Beyond the limestone peaks of HaLong Bay, the Bun Vien inhabitants live their lives in coexistence with the sea. Here in a community 20 kilometres from the mainland, many of these families have been here for generations. A life floating through time without concern for the waves or tides. The small colourful houses sit in rows on the still waters of the lagoon, and in this village they are the homes of around 160 people. Their occupations include fishing and pearl farming. Oops, it seems this one got away from the rest. It doesn't seem difficult to become immersed in the quiet and peaceful atmosphere of this little village. But when you think that everything this village exists on must be brought to 20 kilometres from the mainland. All the food and drinking water must be brought in on larger service vessels, Although we are sure they enjoy some of the 200 species of fish found in the bay, it appears this guy is the local floating greengrocer. The children playing on the deck seem to be having fun, but there is only one elementary school in the area. School-aged children have to make a daily journey by boat. The children from the village only attend school for a few years before having to go to the mainland if they want to keep learning to a higher level. For millennia, the pounding seas outside the bay have carved holes through the heart of the rocky pillars that pepper the bay. We are heading for one of these intriguing holes in the rocks, a cave called the Village Gate. The view from inside this watery cave gives us a unique insight into how the permeation of water through the porous rocks came to weaken the rock structure before they fell into the sea. After such a long but exciting day, we are heading back to the Bhaya Classic for a drink and a bit of rest and relaxation before watching the evening light fade from this particularly unique place on Earth. Standing on the deck of a cruise boat in the early morning light, surrounded by the karst islands of HaLong Bay, is and always will stay in the memory as the most surreal experience. I'm sure that many of the people watching as this panorama unfolds will also have experienced this magical moment. For those who haven't, the pictures you are watching are nothing when it comes to being amongst the real thing. Even at this hour of the morning, the air is warm. The atmosphere is clean and still. The only sounds are the breeze in the rigging and the putt of the fishing boats on their way to work. Far from the madding crowd, everything seemed at peace. The new day was about to begin. As the propellers churn the still waters of the bay, it's time to get those hands and feet moving.
Mùa xuân yêu em, đồi núi thanh thang, hồ nước long lanh ngàn cánh vàng. Ngày ta yêu em, màu lá thanh xuân, chờ đến thu sang rồi hãy tàn. Đàn chim bên sông chiều chiều rung cánh, người ngồi trên bến nhớ mênh mông. mặt đất âm u ngày tháng hoang vu, chợt thấy em qua dập bóng cờ, nhìn ra quanh đây đồi núi reo ca, chờ nắng lên thưa rồi hãy về, bàn chân đi xa người về bỗng nhớ, từng đêm nghe gió ru ơ.
It seems that the rest of the bay is still asleep, but we have places to go and sights to see. Sometime in the late 19th century, the English word karst was borrowed from the German word karst. The term originates in the Mediterranean and refers to a limestone plateau surrounding the city of Trieste on the Adriatic. It was here on the border with Italy where the first research on karst topography was carried out. This karst topography occurs in other parts of the world. The world's largest limestone karst is Australia's Nullarbor Plain, and possibly the most famous, apart from HaLong Bay, is the Lai River near Guilin in China. It was this area that was used as a backdrop in the movie Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, and also for the floating mountains in the movie Avatar. In recognition of its outstanding universal aesthetic value, HaLong Bay was first listed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1994. In 2000, the World Heritage Committee additionally recognised HaLong Bay for its outstanding geological value, and its World Heritage listing was updated. In 2012, HaLong Bay was officially named as one of the new 7 natural wonders of the world.
Well, we're not grounded.
We are off on our next adventure, this time to an island called Bo Hon. On Bo Hon Island is perhaps the most famous cave in HaLong Bay, the Sung Sot Cave. For the fit and healthy, there are about 100 uneven stone steps from water level to the grotto entrance. But when you get there, the view is amazing. The cave entrance is 25 metres above sea level, and even though we found the climb quite taxing, the atmosphere inside is much cooler. Sung Sot was first discovered in 1901 during the French occupation. They called it La Grotte de la Surprise. At around 12,000 square metres and 30 metres high, it is the largest and most spectacular grotto in HaLong Bay. Made up of 2 partitions, the first known as the theatre, Sung Sot Cave is a dry cave, and the many stalactites and stalagmites were formed centuries ago. Many of the chambers are bathed in natural light, filtering in from natural skylights above. For those who often wonder, the stalactites are tightly attached to the ceiling, and the stalagmites grow mightily from the ground. That's something to teach the grandkids. In its long history, HaLong Bay has been the setting of several naval battles against Vietnam's coastal neighbours. On at least 3 occasions, the Vietnamese Army and Navy has repelled Chinese invasions. During the Vietnam War, many of the channels between the islands were heavily mined by the United States Navy, some of which still pose a threat to shipping to this day. Our voyage around HaLong Bay is coming to an end. As we stand at the railing and watch those amazing casks slide past our boat, we take a moment to reflect on some of the amazing sights we have seen. There is no doubt that our trip to Vietnam has been as much an eye-opener as it has been an exciting look at the culture so different to our own. All this is now coming to an end as our boat enters the docks of Tuan Chau Island. We hope you have enjoyed experiencing our trip through Vietnam as much as we have enjoyed bringing it to you.